I do worry about, okay, what if we had a multi-year recession? But outside of that, you could only have stock prices trade unsustainably low or high for so long.
At this point, does it have any emotional effect when you see like, hundreds of thousands of dollars of swings in your portfolio each day?
I would say no, actually, believe it or not. No, I think I've just been doing it so long. I think that's the thing. I've been doing it for so long, and it's always been like a gradual rise for me. And so because I've been doing it for so long, I just not even really fazed by it. It's like if the market's down, I don't know, 5% tomorrow, it's like, okay, cool, I'll buy some stocks. But in terms of me getting highs or lows off of that, not anymore. So. But I'm sure there was time periods in my life when I was an earlier investor. It felt really good. Now, if I hit a new milestone, it's like,
Yeah, but as far as prices declining, how does that impact you? Do you ever get worried to the point where it's like, well, like, what if this is the new normal? What if it stays like this for 10 years or it just keeps declining? Or
I worry about the overall economy. Like if we were to go into a massive recession, that was a multi-year recession or something like that. That's usually my worry. If we're in a good economic climate, I'm not very, very worried. Let's put it that way. Especially for any of these sorts of stocks that I own, they can only trade at unsustainably low levels for so long. It can last for months or maybe even a year, but it's unsustainable. And just like last year at this time, stocks got to very unsustainable levels. Like PE ratios reached like, parabolic levels and things like that. And if you looked at like a forward PE through like Yardini research or whatever, you looked at forward PEs of, small cap stocks or large caps or mid caps, they were trading astronomically high at this time last year. It was unsustainable. And right now, if you look, they're trading at their lowest levels they have in over a decade. Over a decade for mids and small caps. And so when I look at that, that makes me feel pretty darn comfortable. I do worry about, okay, what if we had a multi-year recession? But outside of that, you could only have stock prices trade unsustainably low or high for so long. But yeah, nonetheless, that's kind of the way I think about the market. Stay focused on the long term over the next 3-5 years. This is a lot to be scared of right now. You got the Fed, you got recession fears, you got companies not really giving guidance. I think there's a lot to be scared of in this time, but the best thing you could do is just focus on the next 3 to 5 years. So that's kind of my opinion on that.
I find it surprising that you don't panic or you don't get at all concerned about the stocks going down.
Yeah. No, I think it's just the experience. That's the thing. When you've been doing it for so long, I think that's what it really comes down to. I think if you're a newer investor who's just kind of started to get rolling in this, I think it's very easy to get panicked. I've held a lot of stocks in my time that are very controversial companies. I've held a lot of stocks that had huge short interest. I've held a ton of stocks that I went down 20, 30, 40% on before. So for me to go down in stocks, like that's expected. I catch falling knives all the time. So, think about some of the stocks I've been in, even in my YouTube career. GoPro, which went obviously dramatically bad, right? Tesla, which was the first year I was investing in, that was a drama show. Elon Musk with the SEC, all that. Obviously being through the crash, getting started in the crash, been through corrections. I think I've just been through so much that I think that's what gives me the confidence to kind of hold through.
But you also must have some like personal practices that keep you so level-headed and calm, because every time I see you, it doesn't matter. Like I used to see you more often when I lived with Graham, but every time I still see you, you're very calm and collected. What do you do in your own personal life to stay so calm and collected? Like, do you like meditate? Do you get like a good amount of sleep every night? What is it?
Yeah. So sleep, yes. I always get 6 to 8 hours every night. I go to bed super late, but then I wake up kind of late. So I might go to bed at 2 a.m. and usually wake up like 9 a.m., maybe 10 a.m. if I sleep in a little bit. So I always get a healthy amount of sleep. I meditate every day for about 15 minutes before I go to bed. That helps with like anxiety and those sorts of things, which I think is something that, in this sort of market, you need that, right? Mindful meditation helps massively with like stress relief and anxiety. And in this sort of market we're in right now, there's a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety. And I think that gets the best of people. But at the end of the day, like I said, I think a lot just goes back to experience. If you've been through it and you've been going through it, and the thing for me is I've been doing it so long and I've just kind of climbed the ranks. It wasn't like I went from like, a super small amount of money to like a huge amount of money. The first time I had 6 figures in the stock market, I was 23 years old. 23 years old with 6 figures in the stock market. 24, I hit 200K in the stock market. And, then maybe 28, I hit $1 million or so, 28, 29. So my kind of moves up has been, I would call it gradual. Whereas, if you just flood in a bunch of money, let's say you're already a millionaire and then you flood some money in the market, I think it's really easy to get scared. So, but as far as me, those are some of the practices I usually do.
When did you start meditating?
I did that, started that, let's see, that was about 1.5 years ago. Yeah, I started meditation about 1.5 years ago. And that was definitely amazing. I'm happy I found mindful meditation because I always was somebody that dealt with a lot of anxiety and like over worrying about things and those sorts of things. So I came across mindful meditation and my gosh, that was a life changer, I would say. Because the structure of your brain, you can actually change it. I don't think a lot of people realize this. You can actually change the way your brain functions. And I actually started diving. I didn't even think about that. I thought like the way your brain is or how you think is like just like how you think, right? But it's not. It's like just like you can transform your body to be more strong or more fast or, get a six-pack or whatever. You can do the same thing with your brain. And I came across a Wim Hof method probably 3 years ago. And that's what started me down this cycle of like, you could actually change your brain. You could change the way you think, the way you behave and those sorts of things. And then about 1.5 years ago is when I came across mindful meditation. And that was kind of like the next lever of like understanding how to strengthen your brain and the science-based, advantages of that is astronomical. Yeah. I would say anybody watching this, look into it. There's no hurt it will do to you, and it'll only
walk us through the process. How did you learn about it, and how do you do that? How do you do
What does it mean to mindfully meditate?
Mindful meditation, what it is essentially is, imagine usually I just go to my closet in the dark and just sit down. And what you do, you close your eyes and you're usually always going to be thinking thoughts, right? And your job is essentially to focus back on your breathing. So you're going to think about something, then you focus back on your breathing, focus on your breathing. Your mind's going to all of a sudden drift from thinking about breathing to thinking about something else. Then it's up for you to say, basically in your head, thoughts, and then bring it back to your breath work again. Or maybe you hear a sound in the house or something happens and you process that as sound. And then you start, focusing on your breathing again. And so it's training. It's essentially like you would train your body. You're training your brain to not over obsess about things that aren't relevant or whatnot, and understand you don't have to have compulsive thoughts or something like that. So that's something that it personally helps me with. It does help with focus as well, which is something I always had a lot of trouble with in terms of focusing on a conversation or something like that. That was something I used to have a lot of trouble with, and I've noticed my focus has definitely improved since I started mindful meditation. Because there's a lot of times where I would be there but not really be there. Do you know what I mean? Like you're talking to somebody, having a conversation. You're kind of like giving the vibes like you're in that conversation, but you're not really in that conversation. And last thing I've seen some improvement with is memory. I definitely can remember things better than in the past, and everything's not as much of a blur. And I can remember specific things I said to somebody or specific things that happened, which is helpful because, especially if you're in a busy lifestyle, it can start to just become like a blur. And you're like, dude, I can't even remember what I ate yesterday. I can't remember what I did. And, that's not a fun way to live, because then you're just like, oh my gosh.
Why do I need to remember what I ate yesterday?
Yeah.
Why do I need to remember that? Like, I don't know. I feel like my mind could go without those little details.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, well, I don't need to retain that info.
But it's also about like conversations you have with people, meaningful things that happen. Being present, that's a huge thing. It helped me be more present and like enjoy like, this sounds crazy, but like little stuff, like birds chirping or whatever, like that type of stuff. When your mind's so like obsessed in this weird state, you stop even paying attention to like nature and like, good things going on and whatnot that us as humans, I think, just crave. And, so anyways, there's been a lot that has changed for me for the better. And I would say overall, I'm happier. And the reason I think I'm mainly happier is because of not having to worry about things constantly and over obsessing over whatever's going on or whatever.
What were you worrying about previously?
Oh my gosh, everything. It didn't matter if there's ever anything in my life that went wrong. I would just over obsess about thinking about it, constantly worry like, oh my gosh, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, into a very unhealthy state, where you just have obsessive thoughts about things that are going to go wrong or could go wrong. This might go wrong. What if this happens? I don't know. What if this light falls on my head and I die? You know what I mean? Like, it's just ridiculous thoughts that don't even make sense. But I'm sure there's people out there that have gone through that. And that's where, I kind of reached a breaking point. I'm like, I got to figure out a way out of this. And that's how I came across mindful meditation. I always heard about it, but I never really knew about it. I heard about it and I was like, I thought it was just some whatever thing, that some people do. And then what got me was I looked into science-based facts around it and what that because I was like, well, if somebody says it's good, maybe it's in their brain that like they're like, oh, that helped me out. But when you look into the science-based things, that's what got me into it. And so it's mental health is just like physical health, and I think that's the way people are going to start viewing in the future. I don't think that's the way it's been viewed as the past. But just like, you know, going to the gym, right? You could get overweight, and then you go to the gym, and then you get down to like a healthy weight, and you're like, oh, I'm feeling pretty good about myself. But then all of a sudden, if you break it, you're going to gain that weight back. So same thing with like mental health. If you get yourself to a good point because you're doing something, you got to stay strong and keep doing that thing. Otherwise, you'll end up relapsing and you'll get into a weakened state again, and then your brain won't be in a good place. And so you gotta keep it up if you want to stay in good shape. That's the way I look at it. You kind of got your physical shape, and then you got your mental shape. So
what do you think led to you being so nervous and anxious about random things? Do you think there was something that happened or something like growing up, or maybe this has just been you since you were a child?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably my family circumstances growing up definitely could have, drove me to just be, have more anxiety as a kid. I think some of it's probably hereditary, like you're born in certain ways, right? And so I think some people are more likely to, have those anxiety type thoughts than other folks maybe, whereas other folks just, that doesn't even hit them. They don't worry about anything. You got some people that are fearless, right? Like they don't get scared of anything. They don't fear anything. They don't have any anxiety. And they're just kind of like naturally like that. Like they don't even need to try. And you got other folks that really had problems with that. So, I think some of it's just probably lifestyle growing up. And then I think part of it's just maybe the way I am,
And do you think it's partially that anxiety and that like nervousness that led you to like want to do so much with your life and like become like a multimillionaire and like achieve great things?
I don't think so. First off, I'm a Scorpio, so if you don't know about Scorpios, look them up, okay? Look them up. Look them up sometime, okay? But I think for me, I love competition. I love competing. I love playing games. I love winning and losing. Jack, you know this because we play tennis many times, and I can get very, very competitive. And I just love that. And even if you beat me, like I'm like, okay, I would rather compete and lose to you than not play at all. And so for me, money is kind of it's a game. It's a fun game, and that's kind of the way I look at it. And there's certain things I'm trying to do in my life, obviously. Like I'd love to be able to make crazy amounts of money to give it back to charity and things like that, not just give it to my kids so they can ride around on yachts or something like that. But that's kind of the way I think. And I'm like, to me, it's just very motivating, and I think I love business. I love investing. I love those sorts of things. It's not like, it doesn't even feel like work for me. I listened to a conference call in the bubble bath last night. It doesn't bother me. So.
Bubble bath.
Yeah, bubble bath.
Is that another trick?
I take at least 2 to 3 baths a week. Yeah.
Do you
bubble
really?
bath. Yeah. Put on a conference call.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is it just to you?
Usually, yeah. Usually,
but sometimes.
I'm not gonna say.
Wow. We need to some nice romantic music, some Barry White in the background.
Nice.
Oh, gosh.
Nice.
Wow.
So Jeremy. There's a reason I had 3 kids. You know what I mean?
Oh wow. Wow.
That's fired.
Gosh.
Wow.
I have kind of an interesting proposition.
Okay.
So you said that you kind of suffered with like anxiety and nervousness and stuff like that.
Yep.
And I know that Graham has something that's similar. And I'm wondering,
I'm just uptight. That's all.
You have a video on YouTube
neurotic.
Titled "My Struggle with Social Anxiety."
Not anymore, but I came.
Oh, you solved it.
I solved it.
Yeah, it's gone. Just put it
you just practice putting yourself out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, I have a theory, and I think disproportionately, a lot of people that are very successful struggle from anxiety and being nervous and stuff like that. And because of that, it pushes them to achieve more because they have either like a scarcity mentality or they just somehow feel inferior and feel like they need to compensate by being successful financially.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that?
Sounds like something a broke person was saying. No, I'm kidding.
No, yeah. I mean, I don't really have any thoughts about that. I think different things drive different people, to be honest. I can't speak for other people, but I know for just me personally, I love business and investing so much, like ever since I really started to dive into it when I was in college, it was just something that like right away, like I always hated school. I was a horrible student. I graduated high school with a 2.23 GPA, a 2.23. So for those of you who don't know, that's very bad. Okay. And, and then I go to community college and I start taking like business courses and whatnot, and I start getting like A's and B's, and I always enjoyed it. Even like accounting, which accounting is a subject that, you know, I think a lot of people do not like, you know, reading income statements, balance sheets, cash flows, those sorts of things, right? And doing accounting for companies. I took 3 levels of that. And I thought that was fun. I think because at the end of the day, it came down to money and it was like business related. And so I even found accounting fun, where I always hated anything math related, right? In school, like that was one of my worst subjects, but I enjoyed it so much. And so for me, it was kind of like I just found that as a passion, and I've always been obsessed with business and investing ever since. And I'm always very obsessed with like anybody who's very successful at anything. I have just a great appreciation for people that are really on top of their game, you know, where they're the best at their craft. I love sports, and like you know, I always love watching Tiger Woods play golf. I don't even like golf, but like how dominant he was back in the day, or you know, any of these athletes, Tom Brady and whatnot. It's like I just appreciate anybody that's that great at something. So, and Graham on YouTube, how great he is. You know, we just appreciate him. He's in the Hall of Fame. So, but yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Why don't you take 10% to your portfolio and just invest that in some of the riskier plays? Because it would give you a different aspect to talk about with a smaller portion of your portfolio.
What do you mean? Riskier plays,
riskier stocks, like more. I don't want to say momentum, but you know, I don't want to say gambling.
Yeah,
but you know, some of the hypier stocks that, you know, in short-term plays.
Oh, yeah.
Under a year, but between 1 and 5 months.
Yeah, so short-term plays, first off, some of the stocks I'm in, people would see as riskier because some of the stocks I'm in are unprofitable businesses right now in high growth in newer companies. So I think some stocks I am in, including Tattoo Chef, I think some people would be like, that's a high-risk business. So I definitely don't think I'm in the safest stocks possible. But I think you go down a dangerous path if you're trying to do short-term stuff, like try to swing in and out of stocks and things like that, even if it's with a smaller amount of money. It leads you to doing that more and more often, which is something I got caught into in 2015, where you kind of end up in this bad cycle of dominoes where it's like, oh, I'm making this move and I'm making this move. And you start getting in and out of the market. You start getting more in and out of positions. And ultimately in the stock market, I try to just stay focused, because the more I do that, I know I'm not good at that. I'm not good at trading. Most people aren't, like 98% of people. I'm not good at trading. I'm not successful at swing trading. That's not my thing. Every time I ever do that, I lose money. And when I say lose money, I don't mean like you go down for a little bit and then you make it back. I mean you like lose money, right? You buy a call option in a stock because you think their earnings are going to be good, and it doesn't happen. You lose 100% of your money. And so I think it's just a dangerous game that I'm not really willing to play. So that's why I try to stay away from that, because I think you get into a real bad cycle when it comes to that. But yeah, that's about it. So,
well, stay tuned to see what happens on the next episode of Is There Gonna Be a Recession? Yeah. Is Jeremy gonna have another child? Stay tuned and subscribe. We'll link to your channel down below in the description, and you can get your free stock as well when you sign up for Public. Use the code Graham. Jeremy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you to Public. And wait, I'm not getting any money off that. Wait a minute. Don't thank you to Public. But anyways, guys, we got the paper. We got it right under here, okay? It's going to stay saved until next time I come on. And other than that, buy the dip.
Buy the drip, guys.
Jack, we got